everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Alexander County Board of Education for November 6th of 2017 to order. I want to welcome you all here. Thank you for coming, and I'd like everyone to recognize a brief moment of silence, and in particular, if you could remember board member Sally Artis and her husband, who has some health problems. Thank you. We have a special guest tonight. We have Macy Marie Byers, and she is an outstanding 6th grader at West Alexander Middle School in Miss Kaler's classroom, and she's the daughter of Anita Roop and Bobby Byers. She's the granddaughter of Ruthie and Larry Roop, and she has 3 sisters, Maggie, Dixie, and Miranda. Macy, would you come forward and lead us in our pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Macy.
Good job.
Board members, you've had a chance to look over the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, deletions, additions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And now I'd like to recognize Dr. Jennifer Hefner for our honors and recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. It is always my pleasure to present the honors and recognition portion of the board meeting each month. We will start tonight by recognizing 2 art winners. In the spring, Appalachian State University's Public School Partnership requested 2 pieces of art from each district, one from a rising 4th to 8th grader and one for a rising 9th to 12th grader. Those art pieces were to be displayed for the 2017-18 school year in the New Reich College of Education building located on the campus in Boone. Each of our elementary schools were given the opportunity to submit an art piece from their school that met the criteria. Each middle school was given the opportunity to submit an art piece from each of the 2 age categories in their school that met the criteria. And each of the high schools could submit 2 pieces from each grade level. All of these art submissions were displayed within the case, located in the lobby of the auditorium, and a committee chose a winner from each category. The 2 winners' art pieces were framed and hung in the building last month, and the winners and their families were invited to attend a reception last Friday night at Appalachian State University. Board Member Marty Pennell, will you come help make these presentations? Alexander County Schools was represented for the 4th to 8th grade age group by Amarina, okay, good, Chapman. Amarina is in the 7th grade at East Alexander Middle School. She's the daughter of Andrew Chapman and the granddaughter of Jean and Nadine Chapman. There is a slide of Amarina's piece on the screen, and the originals were hung at Appalachian State University. Amarina, if you would please come forward, let's give her a round of applause.
Good job.
Your artwork is beautiful, by the way. Alexander County Schools was represented for the 9th to 12th grade age group by Brianna Friday. Brianna is in the 10th grade at Alexander Early College. She's the daughter of Burke and Heather Friday, and there is a slide of her piece of artwork on the screen at this time. Please come forward, Brianna Friday. Audience, please give these art winners another round of
Good job.
applause. And I periodically go to Boone for a superintendent's meeting, and I can't wait to find your artwork on the walls up there. Good job.
They're by the elevators.
They're where?
By the elevators.
On the ground floor as you go in, second floor. I'll make sure I go see them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Harry Schrum, will you help me with the next presentation? During the summer months, I always make an announcement that the Bright Ideas grant applications are available to teachers. Last week, the 2017 Energy United Bright Ideas grant recipient was recognized, and that grant recipient was Brian Smith, teacher at Wittenberg Elementary School. Is Brian here tonight? I don't see him. He was planning to be here? Okay, all right. Brian was also Alexander County's Teacher of the Year. He teaches a kindergarten first grade combination class at Wittenberg Elementary School. The grant that he wrote was titled All Boys Book Club, and it's for a Saturday morning boys reading club. And even though he's not here tonight, let's give him a round of applause. Well, if he's not too late, we'll do a replay. How's that? We'll just pretend we didn't even do that. So, Mr. Schrum, I'll need you again. At this time, I would like for Bridget Ryan, president of the Alexander County Public Education Foundation, to come forward and make some presentations.
Evening. Before we get started with our presentations, I would like to introduce the foundation members, and I'm not sure, I know I have one here. We have Vice President Shannon Presnell, Treasurer Dennis Smart, Secretary Misty Oxentine, Anna Ferguson, Andy Anderson, Kim Mitchell, Phil Eichard, Deborah Watts, Dana Benfield, Gordon Knight, and Sally Hardis. So, Gordon, will you help me with these presentations tonight? I also want to thank our selection committee. That included Gordon, Sally Hardis, and Dana Benfield, and they take time to read your grants and select them and make sure that they're worthy of the application grants that we select. So I appreciate your time doing that. Thank you. When I talk about each one of these grant recipients, I'm just going to read some excerpts from what you presented in the grant, because that gives you a little bit more idea of what the grant's about than me standing up here saying it, because some of them are just a little bit over my head on some parts of it. So the first one is to Mr. Tyler Mitchell, and he submitted a grant entitled Safety in the Shop Air Purification. The addition of an air purification system to the shop will make the environment for students safer, more enjoyable, and more appropriate for learning. All students deserve to have clean air at school and keep them healthy now and in the future. Ultimately, our goal for this project is to keep students safe and give them a better experience in the shop areas. Congratulations, Mr. Mitchell.
Tyler.
It's not that simple.
Mr. J.D. Sink is requesting the assistance of the foundation to help purchase additional FFA official dressed uniforms to have needed sizes available to loan students. The FFA organization at Alexander Central High School does not have the needed sizes available to loan our economically disadvantaged students. Students taking part in FFA will gain life-changing experiences that they will be able to carry on into whatever pathway they choose. By making these uniforms available, we will continue doing our part to meet the needs of our students.
Thank you, sir.
Gates is helping students find their genius through gardening. With the support of the foundation, the 25 to 30 students in grades K through 5 active in the gardening club will have a year-long hands-on experience in science, math, engineering, and reading. Students will be involved in every step of the process and will develop leadership skills through the decision-making opportunities available in the group. This grant will provide a composting bin, materials needed to build garden beds in our school campus, gardening tools, soil, mulch, seeds, and plants. Congratulations, Ms. Gates. Ms. Shelley Mitchell is seeking funding for science fiction literature for the English 1 classroom. Alexander Central High School is committed to preparing students to be successful in a global and technology-driven society. In order to achieve this goal, students must be exposed to scientific and technology themes. This project will serve to introduce 2 novel sets with a primary focus on science and technology to the supplemental novel collection. With the foundation's support, over 75 students in our community will benefit this year alone. This project has the potential to reach thousands of students as the novels can be used by multiple teachers for years to come. Congratulations. With the foundation's support, students at Bethlehem will be able to take virtual 3D field trips, experience virtual roller coasters, explore the coral reef, inspect ancient artifacts, etc. These are experiences that students in our rural community may not be able to have without using Google Cardboard and virtual reality. Our classrooms are in need of exciting and innovative activities to be used for STEM. These activities will allow our students to work collaboratively, communicate effectively, and be creative. Congratulations to Ms. Kim Hartzler for her grant titled Breakout Boxes and Google Cardboard.
Oh, thank you.
Our last awarded grant submitted by Mr. Ramey Robinson is titled Motor Control Training Unit for ACS Electrical Trades Lab. Alexander County is fortunate to have the electrical trades program at our high school. Having updated motor control equipment in the electrical shop at Alexander Central will allow 86 students enrolled in electrical trade classes this year to have the opportunity to train on modern, up-to-date controls that will make them marketable upon graduation. Local manufacturing facilities continue to need motor control experience when looking for electrical maintenance technicians. This equipment will allow our students to reach new levels of achievement in this area. Congratulations, Mr. And that's all we have, and I just want to say thank you for submitting your grant proposals, and without your submissions, we couldn't help students.
And ladies, if you'll step forward, gentlemen, if you'll slide in together. I'm sorry, I have you all move over just perfect. Thank you. Can you, Hannah, can you step over just a perfect.
Good job.
Good
Thank
job,
y'all.
guys.
Thank you.
Take 2. At this time, we will recognize the Energy United Bright Ideas Grant recipient. Each summer, I send out a notification that grant applications for Energy United Bright Ideas grants are available. and submissions are made. Last week, the 2017 Energy United Bright Ideas Grant recipient was recognized in Alexander County. Congratulations, Mr. Brian Smith. Brian is the Alexander County Teacher of the Year, and he teaches a kindergarten first grade combination at Wittenberg Elementary School. The grant title was All Boys Book Club and is intended for a Saturday morning boys reading club. That's pretty amazing. Congratulations, Brian. You're good.
Okay.
You're good. Congratulations.
Okay, that concludes our honors and recognitions, and we're going to enter into the business portion of our meeting. So if anybody wants to excuse themselves, you're welcome to. Somebody's checked public comment.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing her.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Good
there's-
job.
She's darling. All right, no one has signed up for public comment, so we will move to the consent agenda. She's a darling. Board members, you've had a chance to look over the consent agenda in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion about any of the items on there? All right, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda items as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to our report section, and I'll recognize Dr. Chad Maynor for our update on West Alexander Middle School. It's good to see you.
Thank you. I'm again saying thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you this evening and share with you just a few of the great things going on at West Alexander Middle School as we move into the second 9 weeks of the school year. Griffin, I may hit the forward button. There we go. All right. The first item I'd like to share with you is, of course, to discuss our student performance or school performance. As you know, West Alexander Middle School met expected growth this school year for the 2016 school year. The previous 3 years we'd exceeded growth, but it's worth noting that this year, even though we met growth, we were in a positive 0.65, which meant that our students gained more than 1 year's growth. We've been in a positive range the last 4 years, and then also this year, we're in the top 50 to 79.9% of all schools, that range. I don't have the exact percent currently, but we're in that range as far as all schools with our positive 0.65 growth index score this year. So that's exciting. Our teachers work very hard and realize that once you get to exceed expected growth, it's hard to stay there. So there'll be years where challenges you'll run across, challenges, different teachers having to be out for various reasons, and lots of extraneous factors that come into play that don't show on a score at the end of the year. But all of our teachers worked extremely hard. All of our teachers currently teaching reading or math exceeded or met expected growth as far as their teacher EVOS scores, and those were released last week, I believe it was, to us, and I think last week as well to teachers. So excited. Our teachers work really hard and deserve to receive the recognition for their hard work. West Alexander Middle School is a PBIS Exemplar school. Us and Bethlehem Elementary will be recognized on November 14th, and I have the committee members there, Mr. Draper, Ms. Simpson, Ms. Stocks, Ms. Starnes, Ms. Kirby, Ms. Walsh, and Ms. Jamie Curtis. And they've all worked really hard. Many of them have been on the PBIS committee from its inception. And I also think it's worth recognizing several others who play a part in this process. I was fortunate to arrive, I think, in year 2 of the PBIS process. The previous year, Ms. Gant, Mr. Palmer moved forward with that process. They looked at their data and could tell that they needed to address the behavior piece and did an outstanding job of that. Mr. Evans and Mr. Palmer as well continued to serve in the PBIS co-chair role, and then Mr. Draper picked up the role last year and just continued to hit the ground running and continued to work to achieve the exemplar status. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of data goes into that process, and I would also like to recognize Melissa Dunn for her support to Mr. Draper and the other PBIS committee members during that process. So we're excited for them. We had a celebration on the early release a couple Fridays ago, give staff lunch from the WPA as well as some shirts recognizing their efforts. So I just want to recognize everybody for their hard work, going all the way back to Ms. Gant, Ms. Palmer, and Mr. Evans. We had a North Carolina Science Teacher of the Year for District 7. Ms. Jody Fry was a North Carolina Science Teacher of the Year for District 7. She received that award on October 19th at the Science Teachers Award Ceremony in Greensboro, and I had the pleasure of attending that ceremony. And Ms. Fry certainly represented West as well as Alexander County Schools extremely well. During last year's testing year, she teaches 8th grade science. She had a heterogeneous group of approximately 102 students. And of those 102 students, I believe 101 of those students passed the 8th grade EOD. That includes kids from AIG to EC and a variety of needs. So she had a 99%, in the end, 99% of her students passed at grade level proficient. And of those, 87.4% passed at college and career ready, which is a level 4 or 5. So that in and of itself, as well as the additional duties she serves with student council and other roles there at West, makes her very deserving of this honor. We're lucky to be the recipients of the Trout in the Classroom project. This project is funded by Trout Unlimited. Mr. Rao, many of you may have been in his classroom. His is the classroom with all the animals and deer heads and all the other items in the classroom, as well as several aquariums. Mr. Rao applied in the spring and was the lucky recipient. And in September, we received 150 trout eggs. I believe we're projected, it's difficult to count at this time, but projecting well over 100 of those have hatched. And in the spring, sometime around March, his class, as well as the other 6th grade class, will be traveling to Stone Mountain to release those into the streams up at Stone Mountain. The project was completely funded from the chiller to the water quality test, food, everything's been completely funded with the project, and it fit nicely with the 6th grade curriculum as far as conservation and ecosystem. So he's done an outstanding job. There was a little scare when the power was out. Actually had to pull a generator in to keep the temperature levels monitored, but I think we were able to pull through that little stint, I guess, last week, and so he's done an outstanding job, and we're excited for that. Another update, Mr. Rao also was the winner last year of the North Carolina Beautiful Grant. As a result of his efforts, we are the proud home to 23 hens and 1 rooster. They are currently laying approximately 7 dozen eggs per week, with projections ranging from 10 to 12 dozen. If you need any eggs, they are now $3 a dozen, and you can purchase those at West on a regular basis. So we welcome your business, as it's generated approximately $117 towards our school science funds. The students, and that's after expenses, the students are responsible for feeding and watering the chickens, as well as gathering the eggs daily. So they've taken it upon themselves last year and are moving strong this year to keeping that project up and going, and we're excited about all that it may entail in the future. They stood the storms the other week, so Mr. Rao may move into storm-proof chicken house construction, because aside from a few lean-in T-post, which Mr. Stone and I put back in. We're in good shape as far as the chickens go. So we're
There you go.
excited of that and proud of Mr. Rao. We had actually two ASU summer reading winners. Jordan Evans, a 7th grade student, was the winner and was recognized at ASU on October 21st at the halftime of the Coastal Carolina game. There's a picture of her and her little sister and her family, and that's a great day. I had the pleasure of attending several years previously, and it's a great time. They get to interact with the players, tour the facility, have a lunch, so you can tell they were enjoying their day in Boone that day. Also, Dr. Price, I hit one too early. Dr. Price, 7th grade class, was the High Student Participation Award winner, and we're in the process of coordinating a date with ASU for a visit from YOSEP in the very near future. And I'd like to recognize Ms. Kim Lohman, our media coordinator, Ms. Jamie Curtis, for coordinating that effort, which actually started last spring as she encouraged students to participate, getting all the materials out to students. So they did an outstanding job promoting that, and a special shout out to Jordan for being the middle school winner. The next slide is entitled Facing the Storm. As many of you know, Monday, October 23rd was a little different day as an administrator and as a resident of Alexander County. Throughout the day, beginning I'd say a little midday, we were under a watch and followed the appropriate protocols. That evening for us, we had a chorus concert that was going to begin, I believe, around 6:30. But didn't quite work out that way, because about 4:30 or whatever the exact time is, Dr. Griffin could probably share better than me, but we went into a warning, and at that time notified staff to take appropriate safety procedures and get to the safest locations in the school. And it was a very eye-opening experience for me. It's one thing to, you see storms and stuff come around, but it's quite the other responsibility when you're responsible for about 75 other people's children as well as the adults in the building, and taking on that and looking out the window. Mr. Draper was there, as well as I'll recognize the names of those that were there. Myself, Mr. Draper, of course. Mr. Howell was actually on a bus with a student in the Ellendale community when the storm came through. Coach Keene was with the girls basketball team in the locker room. Ms. Simpson was working late on our paperwork in her new role in 8th grade. Mr. Stone had arrived back from the buses, so he was in the building. Mr. Walker was assistant to Coach Keene in basketball. Mr. Chandler with wrestling. Ms. Noble was there actually tutoring a student. Ms. Debbie Schrum was in the office, as well as Ms. Calhoun. Ms. Starnes was there with her daughter, who gets off the bus there, and she was working on some things in preparation for the next day. Ms. Brashear is our cheerleading coach, and not pictured Ms. Walsh, the other cheerleading coach, as well as Ms. Krause and her young son, Riker, were all in the building. And they all did an outstanding job and deserve lots of recognition for their efforts, because that was a scary time. We did have some damage, but when you drove around the community, we were blessed in relation to where a lot of other community members suffered. But I'd like to recognize them for doing an outstanding job. Going the extra mile. As we all know, bus drivers are at a shortage and getting harder and harder to find each day. And would like to recognize 7 of our full-time certified staff members, Mr. Matt Cochran, Mr. Tuffer Howell, Ms. Ashley Huss, Mr. Josh Stone, Ms. Loretta Thomas, Mr. Adam Walker, and Ms. Jackie Worley. In addition to their teaching responsibilities, they either drive or monitor a bus each day, which allows us to get students to and from school. And that's certainly not something that's required as part of their job description, but they're willing to do it for a lot of money, but to do it to see that the children get there each day. So I think they deserve some recognition. And the next to last slide, just like to take this opportunity to recognize all the great staff that we have at West Alexander Middle School, from our classroom teachers across all grade levels, exploratory teachers, our office staff, our media, technology specialists, custodians, EC staff, cafeteria staff, school counselor, instructional coach. Mr. Draper does an outstanding job each and every day, as well as Ms. Rum in the office. And we're just blessed to have lots of great staff. And in this position, it doesn't take long to learn how very critical that is, how much they make your job either so much easier or so much harder. And I'm blessed to have a lot of staff that make my job so much easier, that do a lot of hard work behind the scenes. They've had a positive attitude. We've hit the ground running this year with some of the learning focus modules, looking at some plan book EDU and how we're providing instruction during intervention and enrichment, and trying to get the biggest bang for our buck. And having lost some positions where we could dedicate and double dip kids previously that I've spoken to you about, we're no longer able to do that. So we're having to work, I guess, smarter in the sense that we're making the use of our time. Attending the PD and learning focus modules that Dr. Curry's provided has been a great asset, and have continued to learn and grow as professionals. So it's been good. It hasn't been without bumps. Each year I do my own survey of the staff, and family is something that comes up, the family atmosphere and so forth. And this year it's been a lot like families getting started. It's not been without a few bumps. Some days you may not always like your family, but you always love them. And that's the way it's been from time to time. But we've worked through the bumps, and you know, in the end, they all put children first and work really hard. So I just want to give them a big shout out to all the staff there. So if you have the opportunity, I appreciate you doing it. In closing, I just want to say thanks to the Board of Education as well as the district level leadership team members. I missed some thanks on the slides earlier as far as facing the storm. Dr. Griffin, I'd like to thank him for his assistance that day and addressing the weather and checking on us that evening. Dr. Helton was there. She assisted, redirected some parents that didn't get a message because posting the course cancellation on Facebook was not high on the priority list once the storm hit. There's other things on, and she did a great job, as well as Mr. Roney and so many others, Chad Pennell, Russell Green. I talked to lots of others that I probably left off some there, but would like to recognize them, so thank you. And I've included a hot link to the October 16th edition of WAMS TV for your viewing pleasure whenever you have time, as well as a link to the West Alexander Middle School Facebook page at your convenience. And hopefully I haven't went much over my 10-minute window, but I want to say thank you again. If there are any comments, questions, concerns, or otherwise, I welcome those.
I think you do a great job, and particularly in that during that storm, it was, I'm sure, extremely stressful for all of us. But when you're responsible for someone else's children, it probably makes it a little more so.
Puts a new dimension on it.
It does.
And, the warnings and watches, they'll have a new dimension as well, because sometimes since you get comfortable, watch will be okay. We'll move out through this warning. It just didn't work out quite that way this time. So,
Great job.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Dr. Griffin for an update on digital learning and technology.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, thank you for giving me a couple minutes of your time this evening to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart, and that's our technology within our school system. Several years ago, when taking this position, I was challenged to lead up that department and bring some change to our school system, hopefully in a positive manner. And by doing that, I'd like to start by recognizing those folks around me. As Dr. Maynor just alluded to, any organization is run by those around you. And if you're successful, it's because you have wonderful people that surround you and what you do and what you believe in. And I certainly have that. So I'm very proud of the people within our organization, the people that make things happen on a daily basis. First of all, Kim Bishop is my lead specialist. And Kim is probably more than a specialist. She's my right-hand person, and I'm I'm able to communicate with her on a daily basis, take advice, talk about things, and figure out what it is that we need. And I'm certainly grateful for all that she does for our school system. Also, Mr. Jeremy O'Brien, our engineer, network engineer, does a lot of behind-the-scenes things. Becky Rosenberg, we were able to add to our staff here a couple years ago. And then Danny Steichleather also does a lot behind the scenes in running our organization and all of our technology. Here recently, we're able to add Zach Hefner as a Tech 1 to our organization, and Zach has done a lot for us. We were able to actually consolidate several positions, and he now serves East Alexander Middle School, Bethlehem Elementary School, and Taylorsville Elementary School. So many thanks to Zach. Also, our other tech assistants, Tina Durmeyer, Denise Rhodes, Rhonda Reinhardt, Sherry Island, and Cindy Rector assist in all of our schools and making sure things are working properly on a day in and day out basis. So thank you to all those people. I was reading an article not too long ago about technology and education. There were several facts within that article in the overview that I thought pertinent to what we're going to discuss tonight. It kind of starts out with technologies everywhere. I was at a staff development earlier last week, and I kind of started off part of the program by telling the teachers that this thing called the internet doesn't seem to be going away. It's not a trend. It's not something that'll be gone tomorrow. It's changing our lives on a daily basis, and so is technology. So I think we have to understand it, we have to develop it, and we have to run with what it can do and how it can help our students prepare for the real world. And in this article, it said public schools in the United States now provide at least one computer for every 5 students. They spend more than $3 billion per year on digital learning and digital content. And that's probably going to grow exponentially as the years move forward. Dr. Hefner was probably reading my mind the other week as she sent out an article for her weekly updates. And in that article, there were 4 recent polls that parents were reported on the things that they look at in a child's education. And those 5 things were increased and equitable funding. We always want more money. Rigorous academics, career and technical education, Ms. Gant. Number 4 was technology. And Ed Next from that article found that 77% of parents in that poll, the 4 different polls that were put out, support technology within their schools and providing students with laptop computers for use. I also alluded to number 5, post-secondary education for their children. So technology is within everybody's scope. It's within their vision of what they want for their students, and it's within their vision of what they see to be successful and what a child has to have to be successful in the real world this day. Where do we stack up in Alexander County schools? I asked Danny Steichleather to please put some information together for me and what this looked like. So I took a 3-year trend from 14-15 to last year 16-17, and I wanted to see where it was that we were in 14-15, and in 3 years, where are we now? And we were able to look at, we started out with access points upgrades. 14-15, we had 234 access points. Since then, we've added 235. Desktop and laptop upgrades, 14-15, we had 552. We've added 291 desktops and laptops to our district. And then Chromebook upgrades, we started out in 14-15 with the high school and the grant they had. 19-19 they had, and we're currently at 4684 adding 2,765 Chromebooks to our district. So we've added a lot of devices. And I heard some of the presentations earlier talking about STEM and things that are taking place in the classrooms. And I think that's the teachers are able to do that because of some of the upgrades that we've made over the past several years, some of the necessary upgrades. We have a strategic plan within our district, and we talk about it often within our leadership group, and it kind of keeps us on pace for what our goals are and how we need to achieve those goals. Part of my goals, and one of the things through Transformational Technology in that strategic plan, was that infrastructure will be upgraded to support 21st century teaching and learning at a ratio of 1-to-1 at all levels. We're certainly gaining on that at this point. We're currently fully 1-to-1 Chromebooks in grades 3-12. And that's in just a short period of time, in 3 years. And a lot goes into making that happen, and again, those people I recognized earlier, this lady I'll get to in just a second, Ms. Dawson beside me, have been instrumental in making that happen, and I certainly appreciate them. Also, all of our schools, 14 and 15, were not wireless. Currently now, thanks to E-rate funds, house sales tax, we've been able to make our schools, through our federal government funds, E-rate completely wireless. So all of our schools, along with our central office, are completely wireless now. And that's what we're learning is going. We're not attached to a computer anymore. Technology's mobile. We also have digital handbooks within the elementary, middle, and high schools. Other parts of our transformational technology, we've placed 47 projectors countywide. We've added smart TVs, and I'll talk about that and what that looks like in just a bit. We've, this summer, configured over 1,000 iPads countywide. And we rolled out a piece of software called Mosul, and Danny Steichleather is the head of that, and basically what that allows us to do is not only configure these iPads, but monitor the iPad usage and what's being pushed down to each of those iPads at each of the schools. So now we have a handle on all of our iPads versus each individual person being able to have different names, apps, and pieces of software on that device. Knowing that we have this many devices out, we've also added a piece of Guardian protection software so that we can monitor the Chromebooks and the usage by the classroom teachers and also at the district level as well. We've added security cameras to an emergency response system to our central office is one of the things I'd like to speak highly of. I'm also over safety. This building did not have any way to communicate with the building all at one time, so we've recently added that, and unfortunately this day and time it's made that necessary, but I think that we've made this building safer for board meetings, also for our people that work here on a daily basis. Our network and infrastructure, we've consolidated physical servers at the central office. We've also repurposed 7 servers throughout the district. And last year, we did an MC-NC network assessment that allowed us, an outside entity, to come in and tell us what our strengths, what our weaknesses were, and it's given us some feedback and reflection on where we are and what we need to do to stay up to date. We also have new cabling access points at the high school, which I'll talk about here in just a second as well. Currently, through E-rate funds, we were able to upgrade our high school. We knew our access points, we were having some connectivity issues over the years, so we've begun adding new access points to the high school, 134 to be exact, and there'll be Arrowhive access points, which will keep us consistent across the district. All of our schools now have Arrowhive access points, which will give us the ability to monitor all of those here at the one central location. We've also added auditorium lobby, varsity gym lobby, made that wireless. We put and had several different staff developments in those areas over the past year, and they were not wireless, and it's created some issues, so they'll be wireless. Also have additional coverage in varsity gym, JV gym, testing center, band course, and the main lobby. So that school will be up to date and ready to go, we're thinking around December. We've also added new devices throughout our district. We added 27 new LCD panels that we have here in the boardroom. And we've added Dell Optiplex 990s, 27 of those, and projectors and cameras. The CPUs that you see there, the Dell Optiplex, these devices that you see within the boardroom actually have computers on the back of those to run for their information. We have that hooked to the teacher's desktop to run those boards within the classroom setting. I also spoke just a little bit ago about smart TVs. We're learning on how we can be as smart with our finances as possible. We're exploring and have added several places TVs with they're hooked by a Chrome bit, which makes them completely wireless and makes a regular smart flat screen TV into a computer that you can broadcast and display information, much like what I'm doing here within the classroom at a much lower cost. So really under $1,000, we can equip a classroom now, and they give the capabilities of what we're doing and have been doing for around $2,700 to $3,000. So we're exploring new possibilities. Technology maintenance, one of the things that we've learned with these new devices and equipment is you have to keep them up and you have to keep them running, so we have a maintenance program now scheduled. And that's my crew that I talked about earlier, and Ms. Dawson and myself, we get out with our blowers and blow out the CPUs and the projectors and the filters to keep them from overheating and hopefully keep them running properly. We've also added 2 additional technicians to the workforce, and by doing that, adding Zach Hefner, as I mentioned earlier, we consolidated multiple positions to create one. Again, trying to be a good steward of our budget and our finances as we move forward. Very proud of what's taken place. We are, I believe, moving in the right direction, but we're doing so because we have quality people within our school system. We have quality people within the classrooms that are using our devices properly, and I'm very proud of where they're going. To mention Ms. Dawson, we were able to add her to our staff because we can have all the infrastructure we want, we can have all the devices that we want within a school, but if we're not promoting digital learning and not teaching teachers to use these devices properly, they're teaching the students, then I think we're going backwards. So we have added the addition to Ms. Dawson. She's always been a part of our school system. We just kind of restructured what she does a little bit, and she's incredible. And I think she's going to talk to you a little bit about digital learning, teaching and learning at this point. So thank you so much.
Good evening. We wanted to talk about the ACS digital teaching and learning, and I like to say it's not digital teaching and learning, it's just teaching and learning. It's the way we do business. You know, as we have updated all of our devices and we have added more and more devices, it's very important to understand that it's just the way we do business. So, as we look forward this school year, the state of North Carolina has added new licensure requirements for our teachers, and it really comes down to our CEUs and our renewal credits. So our teachers, as they start to renew in 2019, will be required, and you'll see that on that right column, to have 2 digital learning competency credits, which is the equivalency of 20 hours of CEU credit. Those 20 hours, that's basically professional development that they have to have in order to renew their license. That started this year, and the first renewal cycle will be 2019. So how does this affect us? And it is basically, we want to see our teachers integrating the North Carolina digital learning competencies. And I'm going to go ahead and read from these, but high quality integrated digital teaching and learning in our classrooms. We want to see our teachers grow in their skills as they integrate these competencies into their practice. These are not extra. This is just something that aligns with the current teaching standards. We also, there is a competencies for our administrators so that they are at the building level promoting digital learning, and all of this grows our leadership and excellence in digital citizenship. Where are we in this process? So we started in 2016-17 kind of learning about the competencies. We had 2 groups, actually it seemed more like 3 or 4 because I seem to be part of all of them, but there were different groups that were attending different professional development sessions to prepare us for this. So we had, one group was our digital team for digital learning, district team for digital learning, sorry, there's a lot of acronyms. And this group consisted of school-based personnel and district-based personnel, and we attended many workshops, about equivalency of 60 hours, and it was really to prepare us as we move into implementing the digital learning competencies, and how, going forward, that we can set a roadmap for our district. The other group was, there were 4 of us, and we attended the North Carolina Digital Learning Coaching Network, and that was basically to prepare us as we act in a mentoring coaching role for our teachers. And those 4 people, Melinda Glenn from Wittenberg, Andrew Pennell from Sugarloaf, Shelley Mitchell from the high school, and me. So looking towards this year, we knew we wanted to do something a little different that gave our teachers basically what they asked for. They asked for professional development that allowed them to stay in their schools, allowed flexibility, and allowed them time to plan. So we gave them that last Monday, and from all accounts, it turned out very well. I have gone in, I've looked at some of the lesson plans they've created, not all of them, because with 500 different people, it's a little hard to do that. But we have, this day was a lot of work, and it wasn't just me. It was Dr. Griffin, and there were some other members of the district who all helped contribute lesson plans, and we basically created a blended learning module for our teachers so that they could do some of the work in small groups in their schools, but also online. and it wasn't the seat time or the conference style workshops that they're traditionally used to. So it really turned out pretty good. I tried to go to all the schools. It was hard. It was hard. I need a lot more of me, but it's okay. We're building human capacity within our schools. Therefore, so we got our district leader, our school level leaders like Jill Peaks. She was here earlier with Kim Hertzler. Kim has just done incredible things in her school. Jeanette Botcher's doing incredible things in her school. I know Jamie's over there, and Jamie is doing things. Jennifer Muscarelli from Taylorsville. So all of our different schools, there's people within these schools that we're building that capacity so that they can also be those digital leaders. And as we look at why we're doing this, this quote, our job is not to prepare our students for something, our job is to help our students prepare themselves for anything. And I feel like that's what the technology is helping us do. When I think about when I moved to the high school and where we were and where we are now, and the things I see students doing just on a daily basis, that, small things like video editing and things like putting together these awesome presentations that a couple years ago we would have had to sit there and hold hands for. It's just, they are truly embracing the digital, and so are our teachers. And this is really why it's important, is because we do know that post-secondary education, our people going into the service, our people who are just going to the community to be employed, the reality is that digital is not going away. It is just more and more, and I would rather students learn how to harness that in a positive way. And so that's our job as a district, is to continue to help our teachers to grow, so therefore they can help their students to grow. And I think that's the end of my presentation. So ultimately, I've seen incredible changes over the last couple of years, and I hope that we will continue to go forward and keep encouraging our teachers, because they are doing some awesome things in their classrooms. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amy,
Both.
Amy, real quick, we, as a board, we were able to visit East on Friday, and talking about the structure of your PD day on Monday, we saw teachers implementing lesson plans on Friday that they had worked on. They had created those on Monday.
That's what we wanted.
And so it was a success.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'll recognize Renee Mead for our year in review.
Good evening, thank you. I have a few items that I would like to direct your attention to. First of all, the year in review is for the 16-17 school year, and when I sat down and started working on this, it turned out to be 51 pages long. So I did not want to make you sit here through all of that. So that prompted a more concise version, which I've titled Quick Facts. And one of the things that I do need to say is that this year in review is the work of everybody in our school system. And all of our directors contributed items to be listed in this. And I have to say a very special thank you to Teresa Sneaks and Jean Reed for proofing my documents for me, because if you think about 51 pages and then 8 more pages for the quick facts, that's a lot of proofing. So neither the review or the quick facts is a comprehensive list of items in each of the areas, but it's kind of a snapshot. It's a talking point. It's something that you could quickly reference if you were sharing information about our school system. If you will remember, we have the strategic plan, and if you look on the website under our district, you'll see there's a tab for strategic plan, and that's where this is located. And it will remain there. Down the side, you will also see that there is a listing for a year in review, which is the 51-page document. You are welcome to go there and peruse it at your leisure. It was a lot of work, but I do have to say that it is very encouraging and inspiring to see all the things that are taking place. So I do encourage you to go through and look at those. Now, that brings us to the quick facts, which are these little sheets. I've also put a set in front of you. You can see that they are broken down by each of the priority areas. The first set is the student success, and that was 2 pages. front and back, or one page front and back. And I'm not going to go through and read all of that for you, but if you look at it, you have questions, you may need to refer back to either the year in review, and in doing so, I do have to draw your attention to, in here you will see under the priority in blue is the goal, and underneath that in red is the strategy. Now, when you look at that, both of those are written in future tense, and then when you get to the black, those are the tasks that we have done. Not every goal is in here, and not every strategy is in here. If things were completed prior to last year, then we just skipped through those and went straight to what we did last year. If this isn't enough for you, you're welcome to go back to the strategic plan and look through those sections, because it is much more detailed and it has what we're intending to do. Lifelong literacy, back to the quick facts. It is also a front and back piece. Professional excellence, I condensed down to just the front page, and then on the back page you'll see that that is collaborative community. And then we finish up with transformational technology on the front and optimal operations on the back. And those will be posted. I encourage you to look. I encourage you to share. Do you have any questions for me?
You did a beautiful job. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say thank you for doing this, because, you know, we know we do a lot of things, but sometimes we forget exactly what we've done as a
Well,
system.
And I have to say, a lot of times when I was looking through it, I would have to call and say, did we do this last year, or was it, you know, because it seems like it was just a few months ago. So it's a lot of work, and it is a tribute to all of the work that the folks in our school system do.
Thank you for doing it. I know it's a lot of work, but I think it's important to recognize the successes. So thank you for putting it together for us.
Thank
It's
you.
beautiful.
I recognize Dr. Jennifer Hefner for the superintendent's report.
The report that I'm about to give you is also attached to your agenda. Tonight we only have 6 items to discuss, so it's a rather short report. The North Carolina School Board Association's annual conference for board member development is next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That conference will be held in Greensboro. Vice Chair Scott Bowman, Deborah Watts, and I look forward to the learning opportunities this conference always provides. Secondly, the Sports Hall of Fame tickets are being sold for $30 each. The event is scheduled for Monday, November 20th, beginning at 6 o'clock at McLendon's Restaurant. Tickets can be purchased at a variety of locations, including the Board of Education. Friday is a holiday for students and staff in honor of Veterans Day. I hope everyone in Alexander County takes the time to thank a veteran this week. And I also know that you were invited to a special ceremony at Wittenberg on Wednesday. If you are planning to attend, let me know and I'll notify the school. I do have that on my agenda. I want to take a moment to congratulate our varsity Cougar football team for clinching the conference championship last Friday at South Caldwell High School. It was a rainy game. Especially to those like myself who failed to take their umbrellas and ponchos, but it was a good game. This was the first varsity football title since 2010 and the 7th conference championship in our school's 48-year history. The first round of the state playoffs, the Cavaliers will be playing the Cougars in Cougar Stadium Friday evening beginning at 7:30. Admission is $7 per person, and I would just ask you to come out and cheer on our Cougars. We've had such a wonderful and exciting season. The Board of Education is scheduled to visit Bethlehem Elementary on Thursday, November 16th, beginning at 11:30. We will be treated to lunch and a tour of the facility. And again, I would ask you to mark your calendar and make plans to attend that school board visit. And lastly, the Parent Advisory Council meetings at each school have gone very well so far. Dr. Curry and I will finish with these meetings by the middle of November. We're going to compile the data from these focus groups and present the overarching themes to you at the December meeting. Work on the new strategic plan will begin in January, and if any of you or all of you would like to help us with that work, please let me know. Your voice would be appreciated in the process. Any questions?
Any questions? Oh, great.
Thank you.
Back. Oh, moving on to new business, I would recognize Sharon Mahaffey, our Chief Financial Officer, for the presentation of the 2017-18 draft budget or budget proposal. No policies this time. No.
Next month. Are you missing them?
I miss them. I'd much rather do that than the budget.
First of all, I want to thank Bill for his help with the presentation tonight. I guess I'm going to have to eventually give up Excel and Word and go to Google Docs, but I'm not there yet. So, we've come tonight to present the Alexander County Schools budget for the 2017-18 fiscal year, and it is not 51 pages long. A copy of the official budget document is at your place tonight. It's the official document, the one we pass, although it may not be the most helpful to you. Yeah, you probably will find those attachments more helpful. This year, the budget totaled $48,102,453. And you can see the way that is from the chart, the way that breaks down in our 7 funds. We faced a decreased enrollment again this year of 60 students. A recent study of school funding in North Carolina stated that 85 of the 115 LEAs in the state had a drop in year-over-year enrollment. The study also states that 23% of all positions in the state were paid from federal or local funds. This slide shows the percentage of breakdown in each fund. The state fund is the largest with 64% of the total budget. General expense 15%, child nutrition, federal funds, and local expense at 6 and 7%, and then capital outlay and child care. This chart shows, which we have used before, the salary and benefits are the major expenditures of the school system at 84% of the total budget, and this is up from 81% of last year. This slide illustrates the major differences in the amount of funds used for salaries and operating expense. Salaries are $40,503,827 of the $48 million budget. One of the things that we did this year that was a little different was we showed last year's budget, this year's budget, and the difference. I want to caution us to be careful when we do that with state funds, because we have, as you've heard me say before, dollar allotments and position allotments. If you look at the teaching allotments for this year, we lost 5.5 positions, but we gained, according to the chart, $211,000 because the state uses the average teacher salary of the state to come up with a dollar figure for those guaranteed allotments. They need a dollar figure to put in their budget because they have to guarantee the dollars. They have to know the dollars. When we use them in our budget,
we use the number of positions we have. There are several categories that have those guaranteed allotted positions. Of course, the teachers, the school building administrators, we get months of employment that are guaranteed. Instructional support, we get positions. And career and technical education, we get months of employment. So if you add up those along with the increases we got in EC, which must be used for EC students, and the $200,000 in early college, plus the $40,016 that Bill was talking about in E-rate that came for the access points at the high school, you're left with about the increase we got in low wealth. Now, one of the things we talked about in leadership this morning is even in those categories such as EC that we get additional funds, we don't necessarily get enough funds, whether it's because the legislature didn't do it or because of declining enrollment, to cover the additional expenses. In other words, it probably cost us more than $128,830 to cover the increases in salary in EC. Insurance alone was over $300 this year. Per person, yes. This year, we will use, in the general expense budget, we will use $1,170,012 in fund balance. You can see from this slide some of the things that caused the increase in fund balance. Last year, we had $126,000 in Title II funds that were carried over and we had to spend them. We used $464,443 in textbook money that we had. The decrease of $150,000 from the county. Retirement in the non-allotted positions, the increase, the 0.8% increase in retirement, cost $98,864. The health insurance increase was $115,672. The certified salary increase in those non-allotted positions was $110,650. And we received a $25,000 cut to the central office. When I walk into a classroom and there's a really good teacher, it's like magic to me. And I don't think that there is enough money in the world to pay for kids having that magic. But teachers have received significantly deserved salary increases in the last year. When we were looking at the certified salary increases, we had to actually go through person by person and compare their last year's salary with this year's salary. Some of our instructional support positions received a $3,000 increase. So that is a big hurdle to overcome. Well deserved, but big. There are some things that, first of all, the identified increases up there are $1,091,655. The increase in fund balance from last year was $818,000. We have done some things to provide some savings. We parked 2 buses. We eliminated some teacher positions. We have installed LED lighting for energy savings. We have extended the school day so that when we have snow, we don't have to make up those days, which is a savings on operating buses and maintaining the buildings. We moved a significant number of positions to state last year, and we saved $12,000 in workers' comp by doing that. also had some, additional expenditures. We gave back 3 days to the 10-month non-certified employees that lost days a few years ago. I think that is a very good thing. A teacher might drive to Alexander County for a $45,000 a year job because it's a good place to work. Chances are, and in most cases they aren't, people who work in our clerical positions, our TA positions, are the people who pay taxes and vote in Alexander County. Because you're not going to drive 40 miles a day for a $20,000 a year job. Another thing that we have done is we have expanded the one-to-one initiative that Bill discussed. Let's look at the visual, if you're a visual person, of those reductions. The big red reduction is, of course, the textbook money. The green one is our loss of $150,000 in local county funding.
At this time, I would like to share that as of June 30th, we had $3,870,557 in our fund balance. You can deduct what we project using this year, which will leave us a projected total of as of June 30th, 2018, $2,700,545. And I think that we need to go ahead and just put that out there. I wanted you all to know in my budget message how we jumped from $350,000 using fund balance during 16-17 to $1.17 million this year. I wanted to be very transparent about that. Hopefully the presentation helped with that, as well as my budget message. Do you have any questions at this time?
In those losses of certified positions, is it close to the same amount that we actually did away with? Was it 5.5 positions, I believe? Is that close to?
It was 5.5 positions that the state cut us, and
Right.
Harry, when we went back, and some of that's hard to track.
I understand that.
Because maybe we didn't fill a position at high school, but we did fill one at the early college
Right.
because their student numbers increased.
Right.
We came up with about between 3 and 4 positions that we know
Okay,
we
so we're
cut.
close.
An example of that was the PE position that we did not fill, and we ended up splitting a position between the 2 middle schools. So the best we can tell, it was probably about 4 positions versus 5.5.
And approximately how many classrooms? Now I know this is out there, but approximately how many classrooms do we have in the county? Just approximately. I mean, in other words, it'd be hard to. But my point is, what people need to understand is, if we've lost 65 students, that's going to be way less than 1 student per classroom, and so it doesn't really affect our teacher need. It only affects what the state says we're going to get money-wise.
Well, the thing that I like to do, as far as giving an example, we can lose 60 children, but because they're scattered between a lot of buildings, nothing changes with operating expenses.
Exactly.
You still have to run your cafeteria, you still have to have the lights on and the water and those kinds of things. You still have to have a principal in every building. So, while enrollment has declined, and that again is not a secret either, operating expenses continue to remain relatively the same.
Those 60 students probably don't even take away 1 teacher if you tracked it out the entire county.
Well, if you did the math, 60 children, roughly, you could say that would equal 2 teachers.
But if they're
But
taken from all
because-
different classes
Right, and all
over,
different grade
right.
levels, that you don't have the luxury of saying, well, we'll pull 2 teachers at school A. It
Right.
doesn't work that way.
Right.
And I also think it's important for us to understand that we had the increased funding of 200,000 for the early college. In addition to those weren't jobs that were created, those were jobs that moved with those students. So we still had the same amount of state allocation for those students, but we had an increase of 200,000.
And we were able to pay, I think that we ended up taking 2 teaching positions as part of that 200,000. And that's how we covered 2 additional positions with that funding.
And plus the recovery of
Oh, well.
the low well, and plus the recovery also of those students that would be going to Challenger
Yes.
that we pull back into our system.
Are we still paying on the auditorium? Or is that paid off?
That debt service has not been paid.
No, that comes out of a half-cent sales tax, and that's still being paid.
We have several debts that pay off, and I believe that's the one that pays off in 2018. Other questions?
I feel like a rock and roll singer. There's so much reverb on that, or whatever you call that ping. You mentioned that on average, some employees of the school system received a $3,000 raise. Okay. But not every teacher received a $3,000 raise. But what every teacher and school employee did receive was an option to go to the 70-30 plan or spend a significant amount more out of their pockets to stay with the 80-20. Now that won't get any headlines along with the Cougar varsity and JV football team's great season. But when teachers used to take a job, and custodians and maintenance workers, you know, their health insurance benefit was one of those things that kind of kept people employed in the ebb and flow of the market. So that won't make any news. So if it's okay to promote that teachers have been given raises, and et cetera, but what the general public does not understand, probably in all 100 counties in North Carolina, is the General Assembly, if they approve a pay increase, that doesn't mean they're going to send along the difference to make up for that. It's made up locally. Also, on the local appropriation, most folks don't understand, and I'm not going to get into a tirade about where we rank in local funding compared to other systems, but I do wish that folks would research it themselves. In 2001, I believe, was the last time that the school system received a enormous increase, a huge increase. And that had much to do about local supplements, because we were losing teachers to other counties, because the local supplement here was substantially lower than that of the surrounding counties. So the local funding was increased, and I would encourage folks to research it yourself. You know, it's our place to educate children. It's not our place to grovel for money. The general statute makes it real clear. We operate schools, we educate children. This board, nor any future school board, nor any past board, should have to put a majority of their effort and time and gnashing of teeth over 6% of a $48 million budget. That 6% should be relatively easy to come by. Really, if you were going to compare it across the state, then really it should be 9 or 10% of our budget, if you want to consider all things. And thankfully, we have 4 county commissioners that have prior experience in the school system, and I'm thankful for that. So, and it has been stated in the past that we'd never asked for an increase in funding. Well, that day hopefully is gonna come to an end real soon, because we're gonna ask, I hope, for an increase in funding. What other folks might not know is, you know, they always refer to West Virginia as a poor state. You know, you hear it all the time. And there's genuine pockets of poverty in West Virginia. They rank 16th in the United States in per pupil funding. 16th. Kentucky, another place that has significant poverty, they rank 20th in per pupil spending. I can go on, but cut to the chase, North Carolina ranks 43rd. And last time I checked, we only have 50 states. So you can propose whatever you want to do. But a really wise man that taught me a whole lot, and some thought we were adversarial, but I think he's one of the smartest men I'd ever been around. Norris Keever was a former 2-time commissioner in Alexander County. And he and I would debate a lot. But there's one thing that he said that has stuck with me for 20 plus years. He said, liars can figure, but figures never lie. So if folks will take the time to glean out the facts, not the fluff, the data from the North Carolina Department of Instruction, you can also go to the federal site. You know, somebody had to work long and hard to find out that, you know, North Carolina ranks 43rd in per pupil spending, and West Virginia ranks 16th. This data is readily available. And you say, well, this really doesn't impact me. If you have a son or a daughter or a grandson or granddaughter or a niece or a nephew, you get out of life what you put into it. And if our actual effort in Alexander County from a local standpoint is in the bottom 25%, then do you expect them to be number one? I don't think that's realistic. If you're a state that's on the rebound from the recession, their fund balance is growing in Raleigh. You can check it. It's on the state treasurer's website. Alexander County government's fund balance is growing. You can check it. It's on the state treasurer's website. They've increased ad valorem taxes 5 times. Their fund balance is healthy. School systems can't raise money. All we can do is take our allotment, our 41st place allotment, I might add, and our 6% of our entire budget, local allotment, and do the best we can do. That said, it's pretty clear we have no intention of closing any school because it's not justified. It's real clear that we're going to use our fund balance and we're going to spend it down. But at the end of the day, if we ran our fund balance down below 8%, it's not any school board that's legally responsible for funding the operations of schools. The general statute makes it clear where that responsibility lies. Our business is to educate children, and if we have to deplete our fund balance to do it, then so be it.
Mr. Odom, that kind of led into my question, because I think we, as a board, have to come up with a plan and present this and ask commissioners. I mean, we have no choice but to ask for some help, so I guess that's up to us to come up with the way we want to present that.
I would recommend that we sent our superintendent one time, and some of the statements that were made, you know, I certainly didn't agree with. That's no other department asking for county dollars has to go up and be subjected to that kind of stuff.
Correct.
I have prior experience as a Board of Commission member, and I will publicly state that we will not subject our superintendent to the belittling that she took last time. If the whole board has to go, then we'll just go.
I think it was the intention of the budget committee that, members of the budget committee are Vice Chair Scott Bowman, Harry Shrumman, myself, and, we will be making plans to discuss with the commissioners, getting some help. Because obviously, there's been a significant change in circumstance in our financial obligations in the last year, and, as has been stated several times tonight, we were told we didn't ask, so we're asking. So I think we'll be in touch with, members of the board, about how and when that will take place, but I would anticipate it would be very soon. We've also been trying to secure some dates, to meet with, the folks that were gonna be on that funding formula committee with the commissioners, and, we still haven't gotten any feedback on that, so we'll reach out and try and get some dates pretty quick, because it's very apparent that, unless North Carolina changes the way that they fund schools, our county is gonna have to change the way that they fund us, so that's the direction the budget committee will be going in. Any additional comments?
One additional comment regarding healthcare costs. Besides the additional burden to the employee, from the recession forward, 2009 forward, the healthcare per person has increased over $1,200. And when you say, what's $1,200? You have to add that $1,200 per employee plus the amount they spend out of their check to cover dependents, etc. So it's pretty significant.
I also know from, just want to say from the discussions during the budget committee meetings that we are running about as thin as we can. I'm sure everybody in here knows that. We're consolidating positions. People are wearing multiple hats. So it's not like there's fluff. We don't have any fluff. If there ever was fluff in the school system, it wasn't this one. So I think we're at a critical point where this board will have to make some requests, and hopefully we'll be able to work something out.
And our pay will remain the same at $120 a month. So just a little
All right.
trivia.
I need, unless there's any other discussion, we need to take action. Mr. Pennell, did you have anything you want to add? Mr. Bowman, either one? Okay, all right, we need to take action on the budget. You all have had a chance to look at it, and thank you for the presentation. Mr. Happy? I'll need a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any additional discussion on this? Those in favor of approval of the budget as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Now I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Hang on, I gotta read the number.
Oh.
I gotta read the statute, 143-318, 11 sub A sub 6.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We're gonna go into closed session.